What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We're getting pretty tactical today, and we're going to talk about something a little bit different because normally we talk about lists and we talk about factions. We're going to do a little discussion about players today, which I think should be pretty fun. Because obviously this coming weekend, starting, I think coverage starts Thursday for some of the introductory events. We got the Las Vegas Open, the biggest Warhammer 40,000 event in the world, and maybe ever. So currently, let's see if the, yeah, the numbers right here. It says tickets remaining, but there is currently 995 players registered for Las Vegas Open 2023 for just the 40k champs, not the whole event. Obviously, it's a huge convention. There's thousands of people there, but 1,000 people in the Warhammer 40k championship. Everybody, I don't know of an event that's been larger. Last year was 720, I think. And then obviously there are like large team events, especially over in Europe and stuff, but those usually don't break 40 or 50 teams. So that's usually 400 or 500 players. I think this is the biggest event ever. You get them. What about Custodes in there? I appreciate you, chat. That's perfect. What about Custodes? Should we just talk about Custodes all day today? You know, we won't talk about any other factions. We'll just talk about how well Custodes are going to do. How's that? So, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate... We had some comments previously about people being like, oh, well, Las Vegas Open, it only matters for you know, U.S. players. It's actually not, like, really the biggest event or whatever. But pretty sure it's the largest event ever. So, I don't know, everybody. I think that we're going to have... it's going to be a big deal. It's also probably going to crown, or almost certainly going to crown the ITC victor for the season. And so we'll talk about some predictions for who will win the ITC. We'll talk about some predictions for what will win the LVO championships itself. Those two are not usually the same. Obviously, good placing in the LVO champs is typically the largest score that's available to you for your ITC standing, so that will usually secure your place at the top of ITC, but it has happened in the past where a different player has won ITC versus won the championship, although not super often. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I figured what would be cool, and I think we'll also probably go through some of the lists from the top players as well, and talk about what they're playing at LVO, because I think that's interesting as well. Now, a few important things to note. Obviously, this is Warzone Nephilim content, everyone. I know that we got some comments in there. Orcs have all been taking the wind out of LVO sales. Yeah, and I think that was just an unfortunate circumstance of the timing between the release of Arcs of Omen, the release of the data slate, Munitorum Field Manual update. Like, literally the entire face of competitive 40k changed 2 weeks before the event. And it's an impossible choice, right? There's no actual right answer. If they elect to use AOO and use all of the data slate updates, the entire metagame shifts dramatically at the end of the season, and you get all sorts of complaints that the players who have foreknowledge of these changes and of, you know, who have playtest documents and things like that have an unfair advantage in the competition. And then if you don't do that, obviously it means that you're playing an outdated format. So it's like, it's a whole thing. I think sticking with Nephilim was the right call. I mean, especially given how little time was had between the announcement and list submission, I think it was fine. Given if list submission was like right now, I think it closed over the weekend, right? It might maybe like people have a better handle on the Arcs of Omen meta. I think the big change was that, or the big thing that people didn't know beforehand, was how little would change in Arcs of Omen itself, just list building essentially. And most of the changes came from the data slate, but that's still a hugely transformative change. It's also kind of a capstone to the Nephilim season, so I don't begrudge them for making that decision, and I think it's certainly going to make the competition interesting, because it's kind of the last hurrah for a lot of these list archetypes that we saw kind of very dominant in Nephilim, and we'll see them we'll see them do pretty well over here in LVO. Last chance for those raging beats. Yeah, you can scroll back to the beginning of the video. Just watch it again. Just roll it back and watch it again. If you want to get the intro beats one more time. All right, chat. So let's jump into this thing. Sorry, I clicked away from my chat readout. Commander Cha-Cha, I'll predict you win LVO. Dude, you got to make your charges, my guy. If you make your charges, then you'll win. If you can't make, if you accidentally one-shot a Carnifex and could cut yourself like 5 secondary points, then I don't know how you're gonna do it. So you have to roll exactly what you need precisely. If we're gonna keep getting new GT packs in January, they're gonna have to rethink how they handle it. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I feel like this comes up every season, and then they're always like scrambling at the end. It's like, I don't know. It just sucks because like LVO has been established in the community for longer than GT packs have, and they can't at this point like change like the time of year that they're running the event in order to conform to GT pack release. Maybe they just like say screw it and like have no list lock or something, and like just let the use the new GT pack. That might be the actual way to go. But then they can't do list validation, and it's like a whole thing. So I'm not sure how much list validation there is, but we'll see how it goes. 2 failed 60% charges. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the charges after killing the Carnifex, right, with the shot. By the way, chat, if you don't know what we're talking about, we streamed a game yesterday. Commander Cha-Cha and I played a game, Tyranids versus Imperial Knights, and it came down to he needed to kill a Carnifex in melee in the last turn of the game, and actually killed with a gun.
John Lennon will win LVO. Mic drop.
Greg Gonzalez, thanks for the super chat, my guy. I appreciate you. Man, I hope so. Honestly, low-key, I'm rooting for John Lennon to win. I think John Lennon's sweet, and I like that he plays Tyranids, and so I'm in for it. Anyway, that game with Imperial Knights should be up on the replay channel later this week. But I've been playing a ton of games over the weekend. I'll probably post a bunch of them. I've been iterating Tyranid lists. I think I have one that I really like. I'll play it competitively a little bit more, and we'll see how it goes. But it's High Fleet Behemoth. It's kind of a combined arms between Carnifexes and Exocrines, which is interesting. I don't know. And Gene Stealers. Oh my god. Crazy strong. All right, let's talk about some friggin' ITC stuff. So here's the top 16 from ITC. Now, of these, only the top 14 are actually playing in LVO. So Brody Middleton, Nathan Whitbread are not registered currently. So we'll talk about these top 14. Now, I did a bunch of analysis in a super legit Google Drive document here. I hope that's showing up just fine. Looking good. Looking at the statistics up through the end of the Nephilim season, if we disregard outlier sub-factions, so there were lists like Mixed Imperium, which was usually either Custodes or Sororitas plus Imperial Knights as an allied detachment. Then, and also there was a cheeky mixed Forces of the Hive Mind, Gene Stealer called plus Tyranids, that had extremely high win rates, but there was very low sample size, sub 100. So I disregarded those. Of those, these are the top factions at the end of Warzone Nephilim. Mixed Chaos at a ridiculous 58%, and that means not only there's a couple different archetypes in there. Heretic Astartes plus Chaos Demons. There were some Creations of Bile lists plus Chaos Demons that did very well. There was that hot minute where we saw Emperor's Children plus Tzeentch doing very well before. I think that was just disallowed. I think just nobody said that was okay because it was like sort of clearly unintended, but technically correct. And then most importantly, and the one that we'll most likely see do the best over the LVO weekend is Mixed Tzeentch. So that being Thousand Suns plus Tzeentch Demons. Am I going to play in Dutz' tournament in February? I think I might, chat. Dutz running a sweet Sweet. He's got a new Discord talking about Heretic Astartes. It's linked over in the exclamation point Discord in chat if you want to get to my Discord. It's also on my link tree, which should be linked down below the video. Dutes has a new Discord for Heretic Astartes stuff, and he's running TTS tournaments with for T5S2 points through there. So you can go check that out. Is this Google Doc linked anywhere? No, it's I don't have it linked. I just literally made it this morning. So I meant to put a lot more effort into this and maybe make a slideshow or something, but that video that I posted earlier today, oh my god, that took me like 3 full days to do. So if anybody, if you're hurting for Arcs of Omen content, please go check that video out. Give me a view because I put a blood, sweat, and tears into that video. It had some technical problems when I launched it as well. It looked like on mobile devices the audio wasn't playing on YouTube, the YouTube mobile app for whatever reason, and that almost made me have a heart attack. I thought it was borked or something. I'd have to re-upload. It took ages to export and upload and everything. So unfortunately I don't have this Google Doc linked, but it's just right here. It's actually not that long. So these, by the way, are from Stat Check. What I will do is post. Here you go, chat. Oh, it was epic. Thank you, thanks, team. Here is the Cliff Thomas's stats recording for competitive 40k. I think he takes GT plus events. And if you hear me talking about win rates and things like that, I will normally be looking at his statistics because he takes incredibly good statistics. Interestingly, some of the things you can filter for is like opponent's experience and stuff like that, which is like really cool. Lets you see how easy it is to win the faction versus how much counterplay there is. So I think that check that out. Question: are elite character slots in Arcs of Omen extra elite slots? Can you put a Shard of the Void Dragon there and save a normal elite slot? Yes, it's exactly what they're for. Yeah. So you get 3 additional elite slots in Arcs of Omen detachments that are can only be filled by elites with the character keyword. Yeah. And that's largely for things like apothecaries, judiciaries, dogmatas, all these like little characters that you would normally be eating an elite slot for. But because Arcs of Omen can be very restrictive, if you weren't picking elite as your compulsory, and even if you were, like a Space Marine army running a bunch of veterans or something, would run out of elite slots really quickly. So they gave you a little bit of extra flexibility there. So yeah, if you are playing Necrons, you can do that. For sure. All right. So obviously top factions here. Mixed Chaos at 58, Chaos Demons at 56, and this is with pre-nerf Flamers, which we're going to be playing with. So auto-hitting Flamers with all the gubbins. We're going to see a lot of Fate Skimmers today, I think, with Infernal Flames for +1 to wound. We also have Harlequins at 56%, tied for Chaos Demons. Tyranids down there at 55. They're tied with Leagues of Votann and, hilariously, Genestealer Cult, but both Votann and Genestealers have a lower sample size, so I put them lower, but they are sort of around the same power level, or at least win rate effectively. Eldar Isur Urtas Tau down there at the bottom as well. Eldar, I think specifically meaning Craft Worlds or mixed Eldari, so Yannari. I'm not sure if Azir Yanni was called out in this document. So I think the factions really to watch are most importantly going to be that mixed chaos. I think the general consensus is, and I think I agree that mixed Tzeentch, Thousand Suns plus Tzeentch Demons, is the best list in the game. And as we look at, if we look at some of the top 16 players here, a lot of the top 16 are registering as mixed Tzeentch as their faction. So that's going to be the one to watch. Harlequin's also in there, looking pretty strong. Chaos Demons, pure Chaos Demons has a high win rate, but there aren't a lot of really top people playing it. Out of the top 16, only Manny Chima is playing pure Chaos Demons, and he's registered a pure Khorne list, which we'll certainly talk about because it's super weird. It certainly fulfills Manny Chima. The man loves to skew, and he's definitely skewed pretty hard with pure Khorne. So we'll go through his list. We have no Leagues of Votann, or 1 Leagues of Votann, Marshall Peterson registering Leagues of Votann down here. 2 Tau as well from Fucini, and Tom Ogden, as well as one Sororitas from Colin McDade. And then the rest of it, we have a couple Heretic Astartes at the bottom here. This is almost entirely Emperor's Children between Anthony Vanilla and Ben Cherwin. Not 100% sure how well pure Emperor's Children is gonna perform. Obviously, it is pre-nerf, so they get access to things like Abaddon, not in a Supreme Command detachment, and the pre-points hike Terminator bricks with Armor of Contempt, which is very good. But I think the Emperor's Children game plan is pretty straightforward, right? It's got a big Terminator brick. You're gonna put a big Terminator brick in the middle. You're gonna try to shoot people with Noise Marine squads and hope that nobody kills the Noise Marine squads in return. Which they do have Armor of Contempt, so it's a little bit tougher. But I don't know if we've seen Emperor's Children having quite the same success as they had at the beginning of their release. Would think Yanari is included to get the win rate that high? Potentially. Yeah, it could be Yanari. I guess we can take a look and see what sub-factions they have registered on the stat check. Oh, well, I can't do that because the website just went down. Did you guys do that? Did I put a link to that website and you killed it? Did we just take down publictableau.com? the old TacticalTortoise DDoS over here. Maybe we can check back on that later. Manichima not in LVO? Are you sure, chat? Let's look. Yeah, this is with Armor of Contempt, though. Armor of Contempt is in the thing. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I looked at a different event here, chat. Manichima. Oh, you're right, chat. He's not registered. Huh. All right. I must have looked at a different list then. So just kidding. So I guess, yeah, we're down to 13 out of the top 16 there. All right. So we'll talk about some predictions for who will win ITC. Now, I unfortunately couldn't, for whatever reason, ITC doesn't archive its old scores. I think BCP has a little bit of a problem with archived scores. One thing that happens is if they change their score formula, it is for some reason retroactively applicable. So sometimes it goes through and changes scores of seasons past, which has opened a lot of questions. Like, I know, like, personally at one point, I got, like, hiked up to really high score at one point, despite the fact that I only registered RTTs. Just because they changed how different events were weighted, and it was super weird. But that was after the season had ended. So they don't keep old scores. So unfortunately, I can't go through and double check how many points 2022 LVO was worth to try to marry it to the most recent. Generally speaking, super major level events score around 250 to 280. So I think LVO being, a super duper major will probably be worth 20 to 30 points more than that. So it will most likely be around 300 points. So this number here, hopefully you can read that on the stream, everybody. I'll give it a zoom. This number here is the current ITC summary that, or ITC score that the players in the top 16 have. If they win, this is likely their score. This isn't just, they don't just get 300 points or 300 or whatever it's going to be for winning LVO, but what it will do is replace their lowest score. So generally speaking, most of the players in the top 16 are going to get between 70 and 90 points because they're most likely replacing a 200 to a 230 from their lowest score within their top 6 if they get a high placement here. Now, I think the first thing to that we should recognize here is Vic VJ, Mr. Vic, is far and away in the lead, 30 points above Jack Harpster on the in the rankings currently, which means that as long as Vic can maintain a high score at LVO, a score that doesn't allow like Jack or one of these other players in the top 5-ish to lap him by like 30 or more points, then Vic is almost a lock to win ITC. It's pretty close. It looks unlikely. So these players in the green, if the players above them scrub out, which certainly happens at ITC, random stuff happens all the time in an event that big. Any of these players could potentially win. It gets a little bit scary for John Lennon here. I think he's going to have to luck out on how many points LVO ends up being worth, because he is basically tied with Vic currently. So if Vic scrubs out, nobody else here beats a 1494, and John Lennon wins. John Lennon could take the ITC for the 2022 season. That's a little low probability, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So right now it's looking pretty good for Vic. Anybody below this cutoff, as long as LVO isn't worth a significantly more points, and these players win it, and again these players scrub out and don't dramatically increase their score, then these players will still not beat Vic for number 1 spot. So anybody below this margin effectively is like kind of out of the running for to win ITC, unfortunately for them. That said, they can still win LVO and get all of the accolades thereof. So the players I'm most interested in watching over the course of the weekend are these ones, because these ones are really the ones, in my opinion, that are fighting tooth and nail to score that top spot. That's going to be around that, 1550 probably placement there. Now, I do want to call out, I am a little bit upset that Stephen Crawley and Marshall Peterson have registered at all, because there is a chance that they increase their score. And right now they're both sitting at 1337, which is just the perfect meme number. That's a pretty elite score right there, if I do say so myself. That's an interesting, that's a fun fight between those two, because whoever wins the battle of the elite players, I don't know, it's pretty cool. Or maybe you just lose round 1 and then you just drop to maintain your 1337. You know what I mean? That's what I would do, probably. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when we're talking about these, the performance at these large events, there's a couple different factors, in my opinion, that are going to come into play. First off, Vic, Mike Porter, Dave Gaylord. That's true, by the way. If you've seen over in the Discord, he comes in every once in a while and hangs out. Vic does as well. All of these players are traveling, which means that not only is there going to be a metagame shift where they are most likely prepared for a UK metagame that uses uses UKTC or WTC terrain formats. They're going to FLG, which has a player place terrain format, which is significantly different than the UKTC or WTC. So that's a little bit of a culture shock. There's also sometimes a bit of a meta shock as well, just because of the fact that they may hit things that they're not used to, and that does mean that traveling player there's a significant home field advantage to players who play not only in the US but also in the FLG circuit. So between LVO, Bay Area Open, Atlantic City. All of those events use similar terrain formats and similar FAQs, which means that you're a little bit more. You have a little bit of advantage if you're used to that circuit. Now, that's not to say none of these players are in contention, but I do think that is a consideration. The other consideration, obviously, is that traveling is stressful. It takes a long time, and you have to deal with a 7-hour, 8-hour time difference, which is going to be brutal. So we'll see if these players are at their top game. I believe in them, but it's certainly going to be, I think, a little bit of a struggle just to get over that. Now, if they're able to come in early and get used to the time difference and get acclimated and get a bunch of practice games in, then I think they're in a pretty good spot. But obviously, there are some considerations to take into account there. Now, the other consideration, in my opinion, is recent results. And I think the UK players have a huge benefit here because they have a lot of large events, super competitive events towards the end of the season. So unlike a lot of the US players, what we're seeing is that they don't have anything up through December. The season sort of shuts off in December, and then everyone just does LVO prep. So there's no large competitive events to like keep people sharp. And I think that recent competitive experience has a big impact on how well you do. Because if you're already coming off of a bunch of wins, then you have like a level of self-confidence. You have obviously a lot of competitive games more recently under your belt. Whereas if you have some wins, like Jack Harpster up in here, his most recent top placement was in October, and a lot of his top placements, and the same for a lot of these US players, were back in the spring. So these players, not to say that they haven't been playing at all, but playing at this highly competitive GT, super major level events, they may not have had that experience within the last couple of months. Top 16 depends on if FLG is doing the seeding they have talked about, where those players are not even playing the first round. Yeah, I don't know about that. But I think, obviously, that not playing the first round isn't... in 40k, it's funny, right? Because your first round pairings, as long as you're not playing seeded pairings, your first round pairings are like just totally random, right? So you have an equal opportunity to hit something that you're totally not prepared for and that will just kill you, versus something that like you just roll over and you start strong with a big win. And there's a lot of knock-on effects of that, right? Like, I know, speaking personally, and I know it's the same for a lot of these players, is like the first round getting kind of an easier matchup lets you sort of get in the mindset. Whereas if you come in with a bye and then play round 2 onwards, sometimes you hit somebody who has already won a game that day, and you're you're coming off like a just not playing, right? Just like taking an easy morning or whatever. Whereas this person's already like tuned, like they're keyed in, they're like tuned up, they're ready to go. So I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm not 100% sure whether or not getting a round 1 bye is a like a huge benefit or drawback. I don't know. I think maybe that's personal preference, but it'd be interesting to see. So anyway, I think that looking at recent events is also pretty impactful for how well these players are going to be performing. Obviously, all the UK players have this huge benefit of having a lot of recent events that they can point to. So Vic won or placed in the Leicester Super Major back in December and Nottingham Super Major just 2 weeks ago. So both he and Mike Porter are both coming off events in the same month, which is none of the US players can really speak to. David Gaylord is looking a little bit farther back. He did play Leicester Super Major in December, but then everything else is November, October. John Lennon did play Warzone, or won Warzone Atlanta in December as well. So out of the US players, I think John Lennon is probably the most keyed in, and also playing Sweet Tyranid, so that's super cool. So I think I'm looking mostly at John. Jack Harpster obviously has a bunch of points, but a lot of his points are from earlier in the year. So he doesn't have a ton of results in the current like sort of state of the Nephilim meta, and not for a couple of weeks. Now I don't know if that means that he and the Art of War crew has been like jamming Arcs of Moment or something, and he's gonna have to make a sort of devolve his meta knowledge or to try to factor back in for the Nephilim rule set, but I have no idea. Obviously, John Lennon still coming in strong, playing a bunch of games, which is good. All right, so that's what I think about the top players. I think especially Vic and Mike Porter looking very strong from UK. John Lennon is my favorite from US right now. Now, he is playing Kraken Raveners, which I'm a little bit worried about because I think it is one of the less consistent styles of army in the metagame right now. Playing Harlequins or playing Zeech is like, you know, pretty straightforward. Whereas Tyranids feel a little bit wishy-washy, kind of depending on the matchup. But I think John Lennon has proven time and again that he's a good enough player that he just sort of punches his way through bad matchups and ends up like squeaking them out by 1 point anyway somehow. And hopefully he can continue to do that. Yeah. Should we talk about lists, chat? We've got some lists for all of these top players over here in the LVO event, so we can have a little bit of a breakdown. Now, I guess the number one we should talk about is the Zeech list. For some reason this readout doesn't take first names very well. So all the players have submitted their lists, and the lists are public, which is cool. This list is, like I said before, probably the one to watch. It's the number one win rate going into at the end of the season. So going into LVO, it's number one, and we're probably going to see most of these Zeech lists look very similar. So it's the sort of brace of Thousand Sons characters. You get the Exalted Sorcerer, the Infernal Master for all the buff spells, and Ahriman. We then have the huge brick of Rubric Marines, so 6 units of Rubric Marines in a battalion detachment. Am I going to be streaming this weekend? No, I have not. I was not asked to go to LVO, so I have not planned to. The big benefit of these guys, and I did talk about it in my video previously, is that about Arcs of Omen, is that you have these 5 OBSEC models with Temporal Surge, so they can double move themselves, and you get a lot of primary objective control just off of this like MSU style, where you just have a bunch of little units just running onto your opponent's objectives. Temporal Surge, unlike Warp Time, lets you charge afterwards, so you can potentially be moving these units 12 inches plus a charge, which is like a kind of a big deal. And then also, obviously, you're playing in Cult of Duplicity, so you have Sorcerer's Facade to teleport around the table as well. And they just deal pretty decent damage. If your opponent is too aggressive, you can just start stacking smites onto them through the Rubric Marines. You can use the Cabal power to auto-pass high smites for the maximum damage. And your ability to stack mortal wounds is huge. On top of that, you have the Scarab called Terminator Brick that is kind of the core of the army. It's just a billion gunshots, the 2 Hellfire Missile Racks and 2 Soul Reaper cannons. Puts out a bunch of sort of raw damage. Plus, you have all of the Scarab called Terminators. You can use the stratagem to fire additional times with the Combi Bolters. You can use the stratagem for +1 to wound. You can get +1 strength and +1 strength from the Infernal Master on all the guns, and then additional range from Empiric Guidance. So you have, it's just a billion damage from the Scarab called Terminators. It's highly mobile because it can teleport around the table. And then, last but certainly not least, you have the Flamers that can just sort of add pressure to the list. So they can clear chaff. They can stack up on big stuff that the Rubric Marines would have trouble killing. And it's just so flexible and so difficult to pin down because all you have is like these little 5 model units that it just gives you a ton of options to play into basically any matchup, which is cool. So we're gonna see both Vic and True playing a similar variety of the list. I think it's identical, actually. Yeah, it is. Oh, no, this one has a little bit of a different allotment of Flamers. Yeah, so it's 13 Flamers instead of 14 Flamers. And I think we've just upgraded some of the other stuff for a little bit more. Oh, we got a Rhino in there. Does this one have a Rhino? No. Yeah, you get a Rhino. Cool. Sick! So largely the same. The Rhino lets you put 2 of the Rubric Marine squads inside, and then you can disembark them for like an additional bump on the first turn. It also lets you kind of deploy out in the open. As long as you can likely set up line of sight blocking terrain next to the Rhino, and then even if your opponent has shooting on the Rhino, they can kill it, and you just disembark into the line of sight blockers. So it gives you a little bit of a movement buff on the Rubric Marines if you need to on the first turn, which seems fine. I like that. Yeah, so that's the scariest list for sure. Interestingly, Jack Harpster is registering Blood Angels, which I think he played at LVO last year, if I remember correctly. And he has a very interesting build of Blood Angels. He's running the triple Sanguinary Guard, triple Death Company, so like we've seen from most Blood Angels lists. But he also has an auxiliary detachment to bring a Sanguinary Ancient, which otherwise you would have to cut one of these squads for. Oftentimes you'd run like double Death Company and Lamarties to get Fury of the Lost, and then you take the Sanguinary Ancient in there. But he's just paid the 2 CP for an auxiliary detachment to get that as well. Yeah, he's running Lamarties. He's running the Sanguinary Priest with Teeth of Terra, and the 5+ damage ignore against mortal wounds.
Got here late, let me know when you get to my list.
Watches in the Dark, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you. We're going through the list from the top 16 ITC right now, because I think we're going to be watching with great interest the fight between the probably the top 5 players for sure. Like scramble to get the last couple of ITC points to secure the ITC victory is going to be really interesting because VJ has such a lead right now that I think if you're not in top 5 currently, it's going to be very difficult for you to beat him, if not impossible. I think down to like 6th place, I think you probably can't lap him at this point. And then, yeah, a bunch of Infiltrators. And then the triple Death Company and triple Sanguinary Guard. So, obviously, the Death Company and Lamarties gives you access to that Fury of the Lost. It's the last time we're going to be seeing a similar archetype to this, I think. Death Company got such a hammer in Arcs of Omen that I don't know how often we're going to see this. We'll probably still see Death Company, don't get me wrong. I think you still take them. But it seems like a 1 to 2 maybe instead of like a 3+. That's mostly because you lose Fury of the Lost. But the ability to get points off of both killing people with Death Company and losing Death Company is so huge. Lamarties also counts because he's Death Company keyword as well, which is why we get basically the 4x units in there. And then we're paying for the auxiliary detachment to get the Sanguinary Ancient in order to unlock Wrath of Baal, the +2 movement banner, which affects obviously both the Death Company Alpha Strike, but then also being able to put, like, the US player plays terrain to put line of sight blockers in the center of the table, and then hide Sanguinary Guard behind those, and then leap them with the Sanguinary Guard on the subsequent turn. So what you really want to be doing is setting yourself up for like a 1-2 punch, where you keep your opponent contained with the pregame moving Death Company. Either they have to deploy so far back that they don't lose something very important to those Death Company if you go first, that then their first turn is not very good, or that you just get to hammer them immediately. You could also potentially be using the pregame move to get the Death Company, if you have line of sight blockers in the middle, up into those positions. And then you want to basically replace them with the Sanguinary Guard, and then use the +2 movement from Wrath of Baal to get the Sanguinary Guard over the midline, and pin your opponent in their deployment zone. The Infiltrators also help with that, and then that outscores you Relentless Assault. But Arcs of Omen, obviously, you lose that Fury of the Lost, so you lose that super easy secondary, which is sad. Plus, they're the comparison between them and Iron Hands is really sad because they're not a Devastator Doctrine, Super Doctrine faction. Should we look at your list, watchers? Oh, I spelled Stacy with an E. You ran a Tau Sept? Some sweet Tau Sept? The last hurrah of Sunshark Bombers? Yeah, so you're on 1 Riptide Battlesuit, and then double Sunsharks, plus all of the Crisis teams. Is there a Shady Lady in this list? No, yes, there is. Shadow Sun for the redeploy on the Sunshark Bombers. Well, I hope you enjoyed this last outing of Sunshark Bombers before they get neutered pretty heavily by the Arcs of Omen detachment, or the Arcs of Omen Artcraft rules. Obviously, the Sunsharks now have to start the game in reserve so they don't get to bomb on the first turn or second turn, which is brutal. But we get one more outing with them. You get one more. And then, obviously, interestingly, the 2 Crisis Battlesuit teams. Do you have any stealth suits? No stealth suits, right? So we're not homing beaconing them in. They're just going to be running around the table. But there is a Cold Star Commander, right? So he can make them super fast. Yeah. Seems good. And we have air bursting fragmentation. Oh, lots of air bursting fragmentation. So is there a consideration, I bet you can answer this question for me. Is there a consideration with player replace terrain to like give these guys a position to set up in where they can either just shoot with AFPs or use strike and fade to bounce in and out around the middle of the table? Because it feels like a lot of these like kind of mid-range units that want to be within like that sort of 18 to 24 inch range get a really big buff from having player place terrain and being guaranteed that you can set up a position where they can actually use those weapons to the greatest extent. Eyeball 720, when does LVO start? So it actually, while I was grabbing rules for it, I actually noticed that they have it scheduled. Let me see if I can grab the video for you. YouTube's so weird about about video, about stream schedules. Here it is. All right, chat. Here, I'm gonna post the LVO stream in chat. You can check it out on YouTube streaming there. I don't know if they're multi-streaming to their Twitch channel as well, but you can add the notification, and I'm actually going to do the same thing. You can put the notification down to get notified when they go live. So you'll be able to see the countdown on that page, and then it'll give you a ping on YouTube as soon as they go live. And that should make it easier to convert between the two time zones. So hopefully that helps you out. Illiburst helps a lot because people place very greedily near objectives. Oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, because people are always going to be placing the terrain, I mean, obviously in defensive positions. So you kind of need the AFPs. And I guess also if people's practice games kind of convince them that they can get away with putting light infantry on their home objectives and then use player place terrain to hide them, having like 8 AFPs in your list just lets you kill those really easily, and maybe makes people overcommit onto their home objectives, which seems like pretty brutal. You know, like you're in the mirror match and they're like, I put my crude hounds in my objective. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Those guys are not going to stick around. Good stuff. We can stay with Tom. We can talk about Tom Ogden's list. I don't know if he's been playing like basically the same list for the entirety of Nephilim, so I don't know if it changes too much. Oh, he looks like you guys are basically in the same place. He's got Shady Lady and a Supreme Command instead of a second detachment, but otherwise it looks like we're basically around the same place. I really like this the Kroot Shaper Advanced EM Scrambler guy. Do you have that guy? No. Satch. I think it's like, it's easy to forget how annoying the 12-inch anti-deep strike bubble is, especially once you see that dude like standing by himself behind a piece of terrain, in like sort of towards the back corner of the table, and he can, because that bubble's so big, he can screen like fully half of your deployment zone from being shot at by himself. I think the most interesting place I saw for that was Fire Strike Marksman, because the Fire Strike Marksman already has like anti-shooting technology built in, because he has a stealth field generator. So he can just sit on his own in the back of your deployment zone, like shoot one marker light and screen half your deployment zone out of being deep struck into. But obviously the Kroot Shapers is significantly less expensive and doesn't cost you a Force Orc slot, which is sweet. 3 a.m. on Saturday? Ugh. But that just means that you'll miss round 1 and then you can hit round 2 at 6. Easy. Or it's probably 7 or something. Or maybe it's just an all-nighter. I don't know. I think I might be co-streaming. We might do like a watch party or something for sure on Saturday. I'm not sure what my Friday looks like yet, but I might do it over on Twitch. And then I have a meeting on Sunday, but I'm gonna try to push it early so that I can watch the finals with everyone. It'd be cool to like get some games and, you know, I don't know, like grind some Dark Tide or something and just chill with everybody while we're watching. A lot of top Tau players want to switch to Borkhan with Arcs of Omen. Yeah, I saw a bunch of Borkhan lists getting played last weekend in Arcs of Omen events. Yeah, I know the Borkon Warlord trait's amazing. Obviously, you get the invulnerable save ignoring too, and I think like we're probably, especially on Riptide Battlesuits, which is the, it's the second best target for it outside of Storm Surge, but you're not going to play Storm Surges anymore. And I think Riptide Battlesuits were always kind of in there as like the fringe option for Borkon lists, so that you could pay the you could use the strat on the Ion Accelerator, but it was like they were just like, I don't know, they just weren't as exciting. So I think a lot of people just switched to Tau Sept anyway. But yeah, I mean, Borkon seem amazing for sure. Struggle to find CP for the combo? Yeah, I think it probably depends on what you're expecting to see, whether it's worth it or not. The CP definitely feels tight. I think this list only works because we're able to get the Supreme Command detachment in, right? So everything's contained to a single battalion, and we're not paying any CP for additional detachments, whereas like this one is double patrol, right? So you're down 2 already on detachment costs, which is a little bit awkward. I think you have to be on single battalion to get those like flex picks, I guess. Cool. All right, who else are we looking at? We've looked at Vic's list. We looked at Jack Harpster's list. Mike Porter's playing Light Sadath Harlequins. It's like double Death Gesture, which is interesting, but I think the rest is mostly the same. I don't know if it's that. I guess we can look at it. We're talking about it, so we might as well take a look. Yeah, so it's Blaze of Light. I think Battalion plus Patrol. Yeah, so we get extra troop slots. But it's the 6-player troops with all the pistols in transports. Good stuff. We have the Queen of Shards, Shagarax Rose, put in the future, so it's like the 3 damage, ignore, and Vuln save. Super fast Troop Master guy. And then 1 billion troops in Starweavers, the 2 Death Jesters, the one with Rift Ghoul, the one with Lord of Crystal Bones. So one of them, I'm gonna remind myself which one of these does which. I know at one point my favorite technology for these guys was the, I think, Suit of Hidden Knives, which is the one where you stab people for mortal wounds. That's just obnoxiously difficult to kill. I think these styles of characters where you're trying to like just you are what am I trying to say? You're trying to like tie people up with obnoxious characters with like a bunch of rerolls built in are less useful now that their invulnerable saves are worse. Because not only does it make you easier to kill on the first hit, but it also makes your rerolls get way worse. So you probably use rerolls more offensively now. Yeah, so the Rift Ghoul is the ignore cover, deals mortal wounds on a 4+ with the gun, and the Lord of Crystal Bones gets rid of Overwatch and reduces the move of people that you hit. That's probably an answer to demons, because you can shoot Overwatch off of the Flamer units, which is good, and then you can just kill them with a player troop, which should kill a Flamer unit, although they have 1 billion wounds. And then Rift Ghoul also just doing mortal wounds is solid. And then there's another Troop Master with a Veiled King, so the 2+ poison and just a regular sword. Oh, he has the Storied Sword. Which one's that one? Oh, automatically hits and then wins in a 2+. That's a good combo. So you just punch somebody for AP 3/2 damage on a roll of a 2 unless they're a vehicle, and you're still strength 5 against vehicles, so it's not that bad anyway. So 2 Smash Masters, 7 player troops in Starweavers. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 1 on the ground, and then 2 Death Jesters just to in a solitaire just to harass people. Good stuff. Classic Harlequins fare. Imperial Guard getting 2nd place? Man, could you imagine if somebody was just like 8th at Imperial Guard, let's go. Like Brett Urbanowski's out here, like the Katachan himself, running hundreds of conscript into the meat grinder and winning games. That would be sick. That'd be super sick. People back to playing Devilfish Rush, Borkan? Yeah, I like the Devilfish Rush is back. I'm super glad that we're back to Fish of Fury. As someone with... I pointed this out on stream the other day. We were talking about piles of shame. I'll have to rotate my camera so that you can see. This is my pile of shame back here. The one thing that you can't see because it's very small is I have 1, 2, 3 Devilfish new in box. And Breacher teams to go inside them. But Breachers have been so, like, awkward in Nephilim that I just never ended up putting them together. But now is their time. Let's do it. There's 8 Star Weavers? Is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where's the 8th Star Weaver, chat? Did I miscount? No, this is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's only 7 Star Weavers. And then there's 1 player troop on the ground. Which might be in Webway Strike. I don't know. You may Webway it to get secondaries or whatever. The time is now for Fish of Fury. Eric Davidson, you've fought the long war, and now it's time. Now it's time to kill all those annoying Space Marines that you bounced off earlier. They'll be like, oh, you're AP2 in short range? Whatever, I'm saving on a 4. You're like, no, how dare you? All right. We talked about Tom Ogden. We'll talk about the Tyranid lists. Both the Tyranid lists from both Innes and John Lennon are pretty similar. And it's pretty much the classic Tyranid list that we've been seeing do pretty well recently. So it is the Spore Assist, which I imagine is like hugely buffed by player place terrain because you can ensure that you have a safe place to put it that's not within 3 inches of other terrain features. So like, sick. I think if there's one place the Spore Assist is going to shine, it's in player place terrain. Plus, enemies probably put... Like, you can set terrain such that you can have a safe place, or at least an unobtrusive place for the Spore Assist to sit, and then you have a safe place for its Spore Mines to sit. So you can have the Spore Mines, like, placed behind a line of sight blocker and just threaten the middle objective the next turn, which is actually sick. So I bet the Spore Mine is amazing in this format. Or the Spore Assist, excuse me. Same goes for Biovores, I think we have, right? Oh, no Biovores. Oh, yeah, they're there. Yeah. There are 3 Biovores. They could just... You can just set up positions for their Spore Mines to go in to move onto people. So he is on double Tyrant Guard still. Which I think I understand much more. Now that I'm playing... Now that, like, Arcs of Omen and the data slate change has made me play Tyrant Guard, like, more aggressively. Since you can't... You're less incentivized to, like, protect the Winged Tyrant as much as possible. Now that I play Tyrant Guard as, like, an offensive piece, it makes a lot of sense that you would take 2 of them. Because being able to throw one of them at your opponent's, like, a huge deal. Freeze McBreeze. We need to talk about my every army competitive list. Okay. What about it? So there's the single Neurothrope and then double Winged Tyrant. Just a single unit of warriors. I think he went from having like a 5er as a late game piece, but it looks like we've cut 2 to take a Parasite of Mortrex. And then 2 units of Ravagers, a 4 and a 5. So we're mostly relying on the Winged Tyrants to do a bunch of damage. The Ravagers are kind of harassment. And then we're on, yeah, just the Gargoyles and the Warriors. Plus the Alien Cunning Parasite of Mortrex is objective secured. Good sus. Sisters? We'll get to Sisters next chat. We can actually get to Sisters now. Colin McDade is up next on our Odyssey through the top 16 here. So I don't know. To finish off this Tyranid list, I think that obviously the downside of Tyranids right now is the secondary objective options are really tough. You usually lock in interrogation and banners, and this list is pretty good with banners because Tyranids have a lot of random infantry in their army. Plus, you have the Parasite of Mortrax, is actually like a super sick banners option. Because it moves 16 plus an advance. You can 8-inch advance it, so it goes 24, and then just drops a banner after advancing, because it's infantry and alien cunning with 2 advance and perform actions. So you hope that those two max out, and then you're like shoveling for a kill secondary, or hopefully a like cranial feasting maybe sometimes, maybe an assassination sometimes, but mostly it depends on how well your Winged Hive Tyrants can sort of extract victory points from the opponent's army. This is sort of Winged Hive Tyrants the game. And we have 1 Reaper, 1 Maw-Claw, right? Yeah. Love those Maw-Claws, chat. Love it way more than Reaper, actually. And I don't think they're using the new Reaper FAQ where it ignores damage reduction, which is kind of insane. If they are, it's actually amazing. Well, chat, if you want more variety in Death Guard lists, y'all gotta actually perform. I think the only other undefeated Death Guard list, or at least one of the only other ones I looked at, used Relic Contemptors, which, to my knowledge, is not legal. So I did not include that in the list. So I don't know. I took the best one I could find from Arcs of Omen. Most of the other ones are from LVO or from Nephilim events that didn't use AOO detachments. But I don't know. I thought that list was interesting. I mean, generally speaking, I think the archetype is pretty similar. This might be heresy to say to a Death Guard player, but I think your selection of sub-faction doesn't really matter so much for Death Guard. Gives you like a cool stratagem, I guess, and whatever your flash outbreaking on is, it changes what it does. But for the most part, I don't think it dramatically changes how the list operates. And generally speaking, you're going to be focusing on those big Plague Marine bricks and like Blight Lord Terminators. So I think the archetype of the list is probably not going to change significantly between different Death Guard lists. In IAC, they got all the Heretic Astartes keywords, but not the other Legion keywords. So they don't have like Death Guard or Plague Company keywords, is my understanding. I actually, over the weekend when I was assembling all the lists, I went through and double checked. And in the copy of IAC that I have, I couldn't identify where it allows them to be taken in Death Guard detachments. And I might be wrong about that because the rules have changed so many times since that change was initially made. But that is my understanding of the issue right now. Is that none of the Forge World stuff besides the Death Guard Blight Drone is allowed in Death Guard. So there's like a Death Guard section that has specific Death Guard options, but those are not in it. They were like grandfathered in the Heretic Astartes section, and I think when Heretic Astartes kicked over to the 9th Ed Codex, I don't think they were updated for Death Guard. I believe is what happened. But somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I just couldn't find out where that was counteracted. All right, we're talking about Colin McDade's list. We're done with Tyranids. Get out of here, Tyranids. I guess before we move on, we can talk about Innis's list. I think it's mostly the same. Just to put that one to bed. Oh, we're in pairings. Oh, do I have a cat here? I don't think there's a cat here. I think she's watching TV right now. The FAQ for IIC fixed it? Did it? Let me look. Back in September? Oh, yeah, it does have a section about Death Guard. All right, so maybe it's okay now. Nice. All right, so I think it's fine, I guess. Yeah, chat. Yeah, it's like impossible to keep track. It's like easy. Yeah, when things get, it's annoying that it's harder to keep track of when things get fixed than when they get like, or things get broken than when they get fixed. Yeah. Oh, they don't have contagions. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. They lose the abilities. That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if does that break anything? Are you required to have the Contagions of Nurgle ability for Contagions to work? Maybe that's the problem that I'm remembering. No, it just requires Death Guard keyword. Yeah, they just don't generate it by themselves. I guess it's annoying, but I don't think it matters so much. They're usually not really in, I guess, specifically of Relic Contemptors, not usually in contagion range anyway. Yeah, I don't know if there would be anything that they would lose. And a lot of them don't have, like, disgustingly resilient, right? So that's, like, awkward. You just have one, like, randomly one unit in your army that gets destroyed by 2 damage weapons. But that's not bad for Contemptors, obviously. They have a built-in Duty Eternal. Yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't see anything that breaks. But maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, they just don't generate their own aura, but it's whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's the events that like require you to bring every book that's required for your armies are like insane. You're like, are you serious? You want me to bring like 2 trees worth of paper? Like I need 7 books and then 3 FAQs or whatever. I had a friend who at one point I think went to LVO like 2019 or 2020 or something back in 8th edition after they'd made the Shock Assault change. So it was kind of like the Armor of Contempt change where like every Astartes keyworded thing got it. So you got it on Chaos Space Marines, you got it on Space Marines, you got it on Death Guard, Thousand Suns, everything got +1 attack on the charge or was charged. And he was running Blight Haulers and his opponent called him on it, was like, how come you get +1 attack? And he's like, well, they're Astartes, so they get Shock Assault. And his opponent was like, oh, can you show me? And he was like, I don't know, man. It's somewhere. I know that it says that bubonic Astartes, or whatever they were keyworded at the time, get Shock Assault, but I don't know where it is. And it was in like a Space Marine FAQ like appendix. It was like this, the FAQ Space Marines appendix other Space Marines. It was like Death Guard get all of these abilities. Absolutely ludicrous. And it definitely feels like it's the same situation right now. Like real it's like late stage edition problems where the rules have changed so many times in the last 3 months that it's impossible to keep track. All right, we're looking at Innis real quick. Who I think is running basically the same list. Yeah, he's got 8 Raveners instead of 9. The double winged Hive Tyrants, the 3 Warriors. He's got a Lictor, interestingly. Potentially to confirm charges. Along with... Yeah, the Biovores, no Spore Assist. Is that right? Yeah, so instead of the Spore Assist, he has the Lictor. And I think he has Venom Thropes. Does Lennon's list has Venom Thropes? I don't think so. Which feels like sacrilege to me. Venom Thropes are insane. Oh no, he does also have Venom Thropes. Yeah, so he's basically just replaced the Spore Assist. So effectively the same list. That Spore Assist seems real good on player plays terrain. Alright, we were going to talk about sisters. So Colin McDade here running some Adeptus Sororitas. He's on Bloody Rose. I think for the most part this is going to be like normal Bloody Rose stuff. Just Bloody Rose good stuff, which is a list I don't think is going to be changed significantly between now and Arcs of Omen. So I see today's Meta Monday article. What do I think of initial Week 1 Arcs of Omen results? I didn't see today's Meta Monday article. Is that a Goonhammer thing? I don't normally read Goonhammer, to be honest, chat. Oh no. Yeah, I'm not sure where that's posted. It's not MetaWatch, right? We're not talking about MetaWatch. I did do. Obviously, I dived into the results initially. I think the most interesting things to me was that we're not seeing Imperial Knights perform super well right now, which I think is kind of curious. Adeptus Custodes understandably did extremely well, to my recollection. So I think for the most part, it was like kind of what was to be expected, in my opinion. Yeah. Volume 12, paragraph 2, pursuant 319. Yeah, this bullet point here. The second sentence, clause 2, says I get shock assault on my bubonic Astartes, guys. Yeah, it's crazy to try to work out what's going on right now. Which is unfortunate. I mean, part of the problem is that like the rules are so borked upon release that they need so many changes to make them work correctly that it's so difficult to keep things straight. But it is what it is. I think part of the issue is that like so many of the rules are contained within different codexes. The data slates do a pretty good job of like implementing game-wide rules changes, but then if you're combining data slates with Munitorum Field Manual and FAQs and additional supplement materials, it's like insane. It gets pretty crazy. Some of the issue was due to there was a low sample size. Yeah, over one weekend it's hard to keep track. The most interesting thing is like the lists that win. I'm gonna take a quick look. I don't spend a lot of time on Reddit chat, so I did see this this post on. I was in today because I was posting about the video I released today. This post talking about this old thing right here is a good one. Fortunately, Repulsor Executioners no longer fly, so this itself also does not fly. But who remembers this toxic part of the game? What a shit show this was. Good old Repulsor Executioners. I don't know what's going on here, but usually you would have like an Iron Father Fieros in the middle here, and he would give everyone the 5+ invulnerable save. And a lot of armies in the game couldn't get through Smokescreen and a 5+ invuln on a T8 model. Oh, with Ironstone, because you would Ironstone them too. Or at least one of them. And it was very difficult to kill through all the Iron Hands buffs in 8th edition. Yeah, this is 8th edition. When the Codex was released and Repulsor Executioners were first released, they were incredibly broken. What a time! Back in the day, I made a video about it when I played this list, but I played a list that would specifically... It was Triple Executioner, but it was built entirely to fight the other Triple Executioner, because I played White Scars, and 3 Repulsor Executioners were exactly enough points that you could reserve them with the White Scars stratagem, which just costs 1 CP per unit. So you could just start your entire army in a ruin and keep everybody off the table until turn 2. And then they had a guy who could prevent people from falling back from him. So he could go in and lock in like 2 repulsors, because you could buff his charge super high. So you would bring 3 repulsors on the table, shoot their 2 repulsors with your 3 repulsors, or shoot, whatever it was. probably kill one, and then try to engage the other two so they couldn't shoot back, and then he would run away. You were Ride Scar, so you could fall back and charge. And then your repulsors would kill another repulsor, and from there you won the game. And every time I played against repulsor executioners, I won. But if I played against other stuff, it was like a coin flip, because it was very specific list. Funny stuff. Yeah, generally speaking, you can't do that. Usually those get the unstable position keyword, and vehicles can't set up on top level anyway. It's just weird for flying units, but the real Chad move is to not what's the word? The real Chad move is to not allow units to set up on the top above the ground floor. So they talk about some results from Uprising Adelaide. 8-0 Custodes. Oh, they bracketed, but they went to brackets of 4. Ooh, those get awkward. Because you never actually see the top players like compete in the last round, which is weird. So a 7-1 Dark Angels, 8-0 Custodes, 7-1 Tau, 5-2-1, 2 draws. Okay. And then Chaos Demon 7-1, Chaos Demon 7-1 again. Oh my god. Yeah, I think I talked about one of these Chaos Demons list in the video I did, which is just like normal Chaos Demon stuff, like MSU, triple Fleshhounds, I think double Fiends, and then the 2 big demons. Yeah, Nergomat would be in here yelling at me about how much I mess up the Death Guard rules. Maybe Death Guard are the new Knights. Now that Knights are like super meta and not just gatekeepers, and like I actually know what they do. Now Death Guard's the next faction I get to forget all the mechanics of. Fantasia North had a tie at the end. Is this a 3-way tie? Oh no. Yeah, 3-way tie. Oh yeah, so that's 1 draw, excuse me. 2 losses, 1 draw. And 3-way tie at the end for Fantasia North, Necrons, Craftworlds, Custodes. Yeah, this is Craftworlds. I think this is the Hail of Doom Craftworlds list, and it's interesting to see Hail of Doom come back in the metagame. But it sure looks like, I mean, Custodes are killing it, right? Like, and I think everybody called it, where Custodes, or I think most people called it. I called it, I don't know. I put them in my top tier. But Custodes, like, got all of their nerfs removed and went back to almost full power. They still have points cuts, and they still are points increases, and they still have non-obsec characters, so they're not quite release Custodes, but release Custodes are so busted that you don't need to go too far back to get them to like close to that same level. See, we were going to talk about Custodes, chat. We were there. Dark Angels and Blood Angels doing really well is interesting. We have a 4-1 Dark Angels, another 4-1 Dark Angels, and then a 7-1 Dark Angels. So that's kind of out of the woodwork. It'd be interesting to take a look at those lists and dive into what's going on over there. Can models with a flight stand like Drukhari Raiders still technically do that? I mean, it depends. Like they said in the thread, it depends entirely on like the terrain format you're using. Usually there's FAQs for or against it. ITC typically rules against placing your models above the bottom level of terrain if the entire silhouette of the model doesn't fit over the terrain. That is their traditional ruling, and I think that's the best way to do it. But also it matters a lot less for Drukhari Raiders. Like you put a Drukhari Raider up at the top and your opponent's going to shoot it to death. But that kind of like anti-melee, like melee exclusion, it's also less bad in 9th edition because you have a 5-inch vertical engagement. In 8th edition, you didn't have that. So in the situation like we saw in that video, in that picture, where the let's grab the picture again, where the repulsors are on the top level of the terrain, even if you're on, this might tell us straight around. There we go. Even if you're on this level here, so you're on here, you cannot reach those repulsors because your engagement range still only goes up 1 inch. So everyone's engagement range, if we were measuring from this like assault marine here, your engagement range would be this little bubble that looks like this, where it's 1 inch from your base because they base measure. So it's like an oval in 8th edition, but now in 9th it reaches up like this. It's a huge cylinder, like that. So it's much harder to prevent melee from touching you in situations like this. So like the game is different enough that I don't know if you need like very specific rules against that. But honestly, in my opinion, like the mechanics that engender this kind of, you know, sort of exclusionary play are just toxic. Like, just get rid of them. Like, I don't know. Which is why I don't love to play with verticality and terrain. I made a whole video about it. I don't know. We can talk about it. You can go watch my video about how ruins should work in 40k. If you want to hear me talk about more about verticality in tabletop games. It's I don't know. It's weird to make work correctly in a way that's not super abusive. Death Guard is the new mid-table Guardian list. Firmly mid-tier coming from somebody who has like 4,500 points. I mean, mid-table is where every army should be, right? So I think that's fine. I'm interested to see how Death Guard end up, because I know I rated them very low. Some people don't agree with me, but it doesn't feel to me like they got enough to make up for the fact that they lost like a bunch of survivability. Plus they've never had the same, I don't know. They need to have a meta that encourages like this forward momentum and this like central board play, and I just don't know if Arcs of Omen's like that. We'll have to see, but it feels like Arcs of Omen's kind of shooty and kind of like dodgy. Like you play a lot more maneuver secondaries and things like that, just because you have so much maneuverability and so much flexibility in your list construction. And I don't know if Death Guard are like great into a metagame that's like that. Mick Freesbreeze, I'm curious to hear what you think is bottom tier. Because I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't think my faction's bottom tier because I have all these things I can do to win. And I think that's just like the case of every faction. Like, I don't think there's any faction in the game that's like, oh, I can't win. It's just that you're, 2%, like, it's 2% harder for you. Which doesn't, if you're comparing, like, comparatively to other factions, doesn't make a huge difference. Like, right now, I think the balance of the game is in such an interesting point that I think you would be hard-pressed to pick one single faction that's just, like, really bad. That's not like a Space Marine chapter. I want a caveat. If somebody says Crimson Fists, I'm not going to accept it. Space Marines are great, but you have to play Iron Hands or Blood Angels. We've been sidetracked from talking about this Sisters list for so long. We can go back to it. So it's Bloody Rose good stuff. There's 3x 8 Sisters Repentia. Yeah, 3x Zephyrim, 3x Retributors. I think interesting. Yeah, I don't know if this is the most interesting list, I guess, in the world. It's mostly just Bloody Rose MSU. I like the inclusion of these little units are really interesting. And these are the kind of units that, we were talking about the air boosting fragmentation projectors before. You can put like a line of sight blocking terrain lipped on your objective with player place terrain, and then just like put one Crusader on it and be like, I hold it. But if your opponent has 1 billion indirect fire weapons, then you suddenly can't do that, and you have to actually dedicate meatier units to it. And that gets a little dangerous. These are also great for scoring secondaries and things like that. Necrons are worse than Death Guard. Interesting. That's a hot take. Death Guard will beat you if your list is borked, but equal skill players will with a meta equal list. Death Guard player loses on points. Yeah, that's what I mean exactly, right? Like, there have been meta games in 40k where like if you rock up with a particular faction, like you just have no chance. And I don't think we're in one of those. You can win with anything. It's just the comparison between your faction and the opponent's faction and your commensurate player skill. Tyranids? I don't think Tyranids are the worst, honestly. I don't think Tyranids are like, I think Tyranids are, they're probably low mid-tier, but I don't think they're the worst faction in the game for sure. There's still a lot going on with Tyranids. It's just like way dicier than it was. Yeah, I think all factions are playable too, and that's what people. That's always like that's the constant struggle every time I do like a faction tier list or something like that, where I, you know, anytime anyone does a faction tier list and somebody like gets all up in arms because you said their faction was the worst, and you're just like we're not trying to say that your faction like you shouldn't play your faction or that you can't win with it. It's just slightly harder for you than it is for other people. All the Bloody Rose lists are 1,600 points of generic plus 400 points of flavor. Yeah, I think that the sad part about these Bloody Rose lists in Arcs of Omen, not talking about this one in particular because it's going to change, is that I think Arcs of Omen has removed a lot of the flexibility from Sororitas, and I feel like they're kind of pigeonholed into Bloody Rose, and that kind of sucks. But it is what it is. Never underestimate Nids. Yeah. Nid's damage output is still super good in melee. They just don't have like the repeatability that they did in pre-data slate. Because like, I mean, with Overrun, right, you could like kill something and run away every turn. And you could sort of keep that up. But now you have to play like, you have to just hammer people down and like play the trading game, which is, I don't know, it's kind of normal 40k, I guess. Problem with Necrons right now are secondaries. I can see that. Not only do their secondaries get nerfed, right, but they also last relentlessly expansionist, which sucks. So like, they're nerfed and harder to score. That's really cool. The old 1-2 punch. Thanks, G-Dub. Which is unfortunate. Troops or elites for Necrons? I think you're all in on elites. I still don't think you take Necron troops. I think the Necron lists that are like focus on fast attack or elite options are really interesting. Necrons are bottom tier for being boring. Brutal. Is there a Matt, Laura, or Siegler registering at the last second? LVO narrative that I'm looking for? I don't know. Who would be someone who like has a possibility of winning that could like show up last minute? Siegler is interesting because he doesn't have many results. How do you spell his name? In 2022. Does he have any? Did he just fall off the face of the earth? Is it S-I-E or E-I? It's S-I-E, right? Oh, there he is, Richard Siegler. Yeah, he's 4,000th place. Wild. Man's over there resting on his laurels, just retiring. Living his best life. Although he got like his PhD, right? So that's a good excuse not to play 40k. That would be interesting. If he showed up and won, that would be like the repeat. That would be hype as fuck. Maybe Sean Naden. Sean Naden's like such like a random powerhouse. And he always seems to do well at LVOs. Even though he's not usually super high in ITC rankings. He just like kind of randomly shows up and kills people. Although I think he had a kid last year, so I don't know if he's I don't know if he has too much time to play. He openly stated he hated Nephilim. How can you hate Nephilim, chat? Nephilim was so good. That's wild. Yeah, Nathan's in top 350, 341. Playing orcs, tons of orcs. What a boss. Is Pampreen registered? No. I don't know. Maybe like an old stable. Just want to see someone field nothing but monoliths in the test rank file. Don't let Shuma hear you. I've been being pushed to play that on stream, which I'm sure I will at some point. I just don't know when it is. How come this is not scrolling? Oh, what? Here we go, show everybody. It's only 20,000 results. How bad could it be? Yeah, why do you hate Nephilim? I don't know. If you're used to Stranglehold play, Nephilim can be a culture shock. Could also be a faction thing. Like, there was a lot of broken factions in Nephilim that were super busted. Like, I think we forget that, like, the season started with the, like, Tau Custodes release, which was just, like, disgusting. That metagame was, like, super toxic. And then, like, it only got worse, because it, like, those got nerfed, and then Eldar came out, and then that got nerfed, and then Astartes, like, Heretic Astartes came out. So it was, like, I don't know. We did kind of have plus Tyranids were in there somewhere. It was kind of a revolving door of broken factions. But eventually we get to a point where it's, like, pretty... It's in the middle. Adam Camilleri, top 70, but I think he's commentating, right? So I don't think he's actually going to be playing, right? How do you spell his name? I literally just looked at it. Not participating. What about one of the, what about like some European player like coming out of the woodwork? How about Yan? No. Hated the restricted army construction from CP. Oh, I guess so. It's like, it's not that restricted though. What about the guy with orcs that won SoCal? Was that Rich Kilton? So I have my tournament page up. Oh, I messed up. Sorry, chat. Not registered. Oh no, it wasn't Kilton. I don't know who went SoCal Open. Show me SoCal Open. Internet. I can't find it on Best Coast Pairings. Manichima is not registered, chat, unfortunately. I think I made a mistake on my list initially. He's not playing in LVO. Hated AdMech meta the most? Yeah, I think everybody hated AdMech meta. What about Skari? Oh, dude, if Skari came out and won, that would be so sick. Is Skari registered? I'd be in on Skari. No. Oh no. He's Red Van Martinez. Oh, he is registered. What's Skari playing? Dark Eldar classic. Is this, what is this? Patrols? Yeah. Cabal of the Obsidian Rose. That's extra range and a wound reroll, right? 2x Incubi, triple Raider with lances. More Cavalite Warriors. Obsidian Rose again. then Distillers of Fear with Racks, Grotesques, and Venoms. Distillers of Fear, I don't know what that does. I've definitely talked about a list that had it already, though. Every time you make a melee attack for a unit with this obsession, targets a unit with a leadership characteristic equal or lower than the attacking units, add 1 to the hit roll. And you get -1 leadership within 6 inches. They're just Night Lords? Wild. Okay. Oh, it's Dark Creed is the name of the thing. And then when core or character is selected to shoot, you can ignore lookouts, sir. But we don't have guns in this list. I guess you could do it on the Venoms. Doesn't really matter. 2 CP, not great. Decent if you have flamers, but only within 12, so it doesn't really matter so much anyway. Oh, and we have Warlord Drazar. Yeah, Warlord Drazar. What a guy. This list is sick. This is so many Cavalry Warriors. Yeah, plus 6 inch range in a wound roll for Obsidian Rose for all the Cabalites. And then they run Phantasm Grenade Launchers. So is the Wombo combo that we use the... what's the word? The Dark Creed guys to reduce morale so that the Phantasm Grenade Launchers do more mortal wounds? If so, it sounds like a meme. Yeah, everything has Phantasm Grenade Launchers, actually. But also the Phantasm Grenade Launchers, I guess they shoot D3 times, but you can't reroll on them. But you have blasters for to eat the reroll for Obsidian Rose. All right. It's kind of adorable. Yeah, it's 9 Phantasms. Yeah, because it's 3. Oh, these don't get them, unfortunately. So it's 3 on the Raiders and then 6 on the Cavalite units. Plus 6 blasters. It's kind of a lot. Oh, Ben Urich is the Orc player we were talking about. Running Goffs. I do think Goffs is kind of a sleeper, but I don't think it's a sleeper in Nephilim, unfortunately. So I'm not sure how much I mean, if he just goes first every game, he's got a pretty solid chance. But I think that, honestly, I think Orcs are... I might have, I don't know, maybe I underrated them in the... when I did the ranking video, because I do think Orcs actually are, significantly stronger in... Arcs of Omen. So, I don't know, maybe there's a chance. I think I like Death Skulls Orcs more than Goffs, honestly, in Nephilim, just because, army-wide OBSEC's so strong. Goffs does more damage, but Death Skulls just wins on primary. And I don't think that this list, does enough damage for it to make a huge difference, because everything's, AP1, AP2, and you're just gonna Armor Contempt it into Oblivion. So, I don't know. We'll see. After the drama, Manny wrote off this season and didn't attend a super major. Was this the drama about the artillery thing? Was this the artillery drama? Because if so, that's funny. It'd be good if somebody if artillery made it top 16 ITC player quit 40k. Oh, artillery, you piece of shit. Oh yeah, reserving killicans for sure. Yeah, the 30-point killicans that can reserve seems good. What about them custodies? We've talked so much about custodies in this in this video about definitely not custodies. Yeah, I like this Drukhari list, chat. I'd be all in for Skari to like win it. Who else is registered? Brett Urbanowski, the Catachan himself. I'm low-key rooting for 8th Ed Astro Militarum. Let's go. Got weird Vein Psychers and everything? Hell yeah. See some of my locals in here too. Honestly, I just want like, I think I just want Tyranids to have one more day in the sun before they get like neutered by nerfs. So I'd like to see Tyranids do well. I'm rooting for John Lennon. I think John Lennon's cool and he's playing Tyranids, so hopefully he wins. Is Steven Box playing? That's a great question. Yeah, he's playing Eldar. Custom craft world, Children of Cain and Vengeful. That is a combination I have never seen before. Steven Box, what are you doing over there, bud? +1 damage on wound rolls of 6. And Vengeful is exploding 6s on hits. Oh, that's cool. That's like a Fushini slash kind of thing. You get additional hit rolls that then can convert into additional damage. And there's an avatar in this list? Oh my god. This list is sick. Man, Eldar's so cool. I should play Eldar. It's just all-out offense. What a cool list. No transports even for the Striking Scorpion unit, or for the Talon Banshee units. Who cares? Who needs them? It's 1 Mirror Swords and Piercing Strikes, 1 Nerve Shedding Shriek, 15 Striking Scorpions, a 10 and a 5, and then 2 Shining Spears. Oh my god. Warwalkers with Scats. Inky's here. Hi. Tyranid's the most played faction? Potentially. I think somebody said that they're pretty high. It's like 10% or something. Gonna be a lot of Thousand Suns? Yeah, I think, I mean, especially top tables, I think that Tzeentch is his favorite to win for sure. Mixed Tzeentch. Like we said at the top. By the way, here's an Inky chat. She's coming to say hi to chat. Hey. Say hello to everybody on the camera. Oh, no, you don't want to. Okay, I see how it is. Wow, that was aggressive. She really doesn't want to be on camera. Cool list. All right. Anything else that we want to go over, chat? Before I wrap things up, I think this has been a pretty solid discussion. We talked about predictions for winning the event, predictions for winning the ITC. We went over the list from some of the best players. We talked a lot about Reddit for whatever reason, and verticality and terrain. We sort of covered a whole gamut of topics today, which has been interesting. 15% Space Marines at LVO. Well, I'm sorry to all those Space Marine players. They're really excited about Arcs of Omen. They just they don't get it quite yet. That's next week. Next week you get to play Arcs of Omen, all those Space Marine players. Enjoy that. But anyway, thanks everyone for hanging out with me on this most tactical Tuesdays. So the coverage for LVO starts Thursday. Games are going to start Friday. I think what I may do is do some sort of watch party style streaming over on Twitch. So if you're not following me on Twitch, please go do that. There's a link in my link tree. And well, yeah, we'll just hang out and we'll watch some games and we'll, I don't know, maybe play some games, or we'll look at more mixed Zinch lists. You want me to look at the same identical list over and over again? I'll give you a preview. It's 1 Fate Skimmer, 3 units of Flamers, 6 units of River Marines, 1 Scarab Cult Terminator unit, 1 Infernal Master, Ahriman, and an Exalted Sorcerer. And I can almost guarantee that almost everyone looks like that. Can we look at, or can we search by faction? Yes. Ready? Here we go. Alan Hernandez. 1, 2, 3. Nailed it. How many units for Rook Marines? 4 Uncultists. Lame. Oh, this one has Executioners. This is Mixed Chaos. How dare you? You've defeated me. That doesn't count. All right. Oh, this one trades Rubric Marines for Screamers and more Flamers. And a Zangor Shaman. So we lose 3 Rubric Marines, but we get Screamers. That feels like a downgrade, but okay. This one is just demons. Oh, it does say Siege Demons there. That's my bad. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, Contemptor Dreadnought. There we go. There's a difference. We traded 1 Rubric Squad for Contemptor. We did it. We found the different unit, the different list. Yay. Is anyone playing Monocorn? I believe that there was one Monocorn. So I looked at a Monocorn list, and I thought it was Mini Chimas, but I must have been looking at a different event. Yeah, here is one with a Bloodthirster, Demon Prince, 60 Bloodletters, 2 units of Blood Crushers, so that's 6 Blood Crushers, Flesh Hounds, 3 units of Flesh Hounds. Not, it's pre-buff Flesh Hounds, unfortunately, so they're a little expensive. We have another one that is double Bloodthirster and Scarbrand. Oh, yeah, dude. That's the stuff right there. Blood Drinker, Brazen Hide, Rage Unchained on one of them, and then Argath and Indomitable Onslaught on the other one. So one of them has the Brazen Hide and the healing, but not the Phase Cap, and the other one's just has the Phase Cap and the big sword, or the big axe. I think it kind of makes sense, I guess. You sort of spread your survivability buffs across both of them. Interesting. I'm interested to see how much we see Scarbrand in Arcs of Omen, because we saw him a lot in Nephilim for whatever reason. Yeah, that's just that 6 Bloodletter unit list is just, we're just pushing real hard. But I mean, it seems pretty strong. I kind of feel like, I mean, I guess the Fleshhounds and the Blood Crushers add like a lot of mobility to the list, but I kind of feel like you just take the double Bloodthirsters and you just blood with Bloodletters anyway. I think those are the best units in Nephilim Corn, in my opinion. Bloodthirsters are just so sweet. He's a Warp Locust, but he's like a weird Warp Locust because he doesn't fly. So he doesn't actually improve your mobility that much because he's like has to move around walls, and so you almost might as well have just placed the Bloodthirster on the table. And there are not many lists that don't just kill him, in my opinion, especially since he buffs your melee attacks like when you attack him, which is just sort of a strange ability to have. It makes sense thematically, but it's like kind of anti-synergistic. He's like, I'm the big melee guy. I'm going to go into melee with you. And you're like, okay, but I get an extra attack when I'm punching you with all my melee guys with Thunderhammers or whatever. And he's like, oh no, what have I done? Bonk. I almost like, the lists that I appreciated with Scarbrand the most used Bellicor to teleport Scarbrand in. Because if Scarbrand gets shot at, he's like having a really bad time. But if Scarbrand just teleports directly into melee and then locks you in, it feels really good. Yeah, the immune to psychic is solid for sure. I do agree that that is very good. But I mean, like his issue isn't psychic; it's like melee for some reason. That's been my experience every time I played against him. I think I've killed him in melee every time I played him, or seen him killed in melee basically every time. Yeah. It's pretty silly. It's like, you can't fall back for me. And your opponent's like, okay, but I don't want to. I'm so good at punching you. I killed him one time because he engaged a unit of demonettes to like lock them in so he didn't get shot by flamers. And then the demonettes like hit him for like 5 damage. Just they spiked really high because they just rolled a bunch of 6s to wound and he failed his saves. But it was like, just because they're already high volume of attacks and then he gives them +1 attacks, so they're rolling like 50 dice at him. It just randomly takes damage from stupid stuff. And then a Bloodthirster killed him. Yeah. All right, chats. That is going to be it for me. I'm going to go ahead and pop off. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me. This was a sick discussion. I think it ended up becoming a little bit of a less coherent show than I expected, but that's because we had really good discussions happening. So I appreciate everyone for that. Come hang out with me on Twitch. I'm going to be live tomorrow on Twitch. We have a super cool pre-invitational show match. There is a tie 16th and 17th for the T5S2 Invitational, which starts next week, or the week after next, excuse me. Lists go in next week, and then the week after next we will be doing the thing. There's a tie for the last invitational spot. 2 players have exactly the same score, which is insane. And we're going to make them play for it. So that's going to be exciting. That's tomorrow at... I'm just going to double check the time for everyone. I believe that it is 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Let's take a look. Yeah, 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern on Wednesday. So that is like 20 hours from now. Cool. So come hang out with me doing that. And then I'll probably have more games and stuff happening over the course of the week. I've been playing a lot of Arks of Omen, so it's been super fun. Otherwise, if you haven't joined the giveaway yet, I haven't shouted it out today. There is a video. It's the pinned video on the channel right now. Go check it out. In there, there's instructions on how to join the giveaway. I'm giving away like, I don't know, it's probably like $700 of stuff for 40k subscribers, so that's super sick. And I'm hype, so come join and get some free miniatures and things. Also watch the video that I posted earlier today. I think it's awesome, and it took me like 3 days to make, so I hope it does well. And I'll see y'all later. So have a good one, everybody. Remember to keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming and all that stuff.